A masked gunman stalks a Manhattan street, his silencer flashing as Brian Thompson, a healthcare CEO, crumples to the ground. Shell casings scream. 5 days later, Luigi Mangione, an Ivy League grad turned killer, is caught. His notebook revealing a chilling plan. Was it murder or a message? The streets of Manhattan buzzed with the usual chaos on December 4th, 2024, as the city braced for winter. Outside a sleek midtown hotel, Brian Thompson stepped onto the sidewalk, his breath visible in the crisp morning air. The 50-year-old CEO of UnitedHealthcare, a titan in America's sprawling health insurance empire, was on his way to the company's annual investor conference, a routine event in a career that had spanned over 2 decades. Married, a father of 2, Thompson had climbed the ranks to lead United's insurance arm by 2021, a role that made him a symbol of corporate power. But that morning, as he walked, a figure emerged from the shadows. A masked man, lean and deliberate, riding an electric bicycle. In an instant, a silenced gunshot pierced the air. Thompson stumbled, then fell, as more shots rang out. The gunman fired with precision, each bullet a message, before vanishing into the city's labyrinth on his e-bike. Brian Thompson was dead, and the nation was about to be gripped by a story that would blur the lines between justice and vengeance. 5 days later, on December 9th, the small town of Altoona, Pennsylvania, became the unlikely stage for the next chapter. Inside a McDonald's, a cashier glanced up from her register and froze. The man ordering a coffee matched the face plastered across every news outlet in the country. Luigi Mangione, the 26-year-old Ivy League graduate wanted for Thompson's murder. She kept her composure, finished the transaction, and quietly dialed the police. Within hours, Mangione sat in custody, his backpack spilling secrets that would fuel a legal firestorm. Officers found a loaded firearm, its barrel still warm with guilt, a silencer tucked beside it. Fake IDs under the name Mark Rosario hinted at a calculated disguise. A notebook, its pages scrawled with rage, laid bare his hatred for health insurance giants and their wealthy executives. And then there was the cash, $10,000, crisp and ready for a fugitive's flight. The arrest was swift, but the story was just beginning. Luigi Mangione wasn't the typical suspect. Born and raised in Maryland, he'd walked the hallowed halls of an Ivy League school, a young man with promise. But somewhere along the way, that promise curdled into something darker. His notebook told the tale, a manifesto of sorts, penned over months. An entry from August read, "The target is insurance because it checks every box." By October, his plans sharpened. Whack an insurance company CEO at an investor conference. The words weren't idle rants. They were a blueprint. Prosecutors would later argue that Mangione had spent months plotting, crisscrossing state lines, watching his target, waiting for the perfect moment. The shell casings left at the scene, etched with deny, delay, and depose, were his signature, a nod to the grievances millions shared about denied claims and endless bureaucratic hoops. To some, it was a cry against a broken system. To others, it was cold-blooded murder. Back in New York, the crime scene painted a chilling picture. Surveillance cameras had caught the gunman's every move. His approach from behind, the flash of the muzzle, the swift escape. Ballistics linked the gun in Mangione's possession to the bullets that ended Thompson's life. The silencer, a rare and deliberate choice, spoke of premeditation, and those shell casings, with their haunting inscriptions, turned a corporate killing into a public statement. Prosecutors wasted no time. In New York State Court, Mangione faced 11 charges, including first-degree murder, an accusation rarely leveled, reserved for acts of terrorism or the slaying of cops and judges. They claimed his goal was to terrorize, to send a message to corporate America and bend government policy through fear. If convicted, he'd spend his life behind bars, no chance of parole. But the feds had their own plans. Federal prosecutors stepped in with 4 counts of their own. Murder with a firearm, a charge that dangled the death penalty over Mangione's head. 2 counts of stalking across state lines, culminating in death, and the use of a silenced weapon in a violent crime, promising decades in prison at minimum. They painted him as a predator, a man who'd hunted Thompson for months, driven by a vendetta against the healthcare machine. The notebook was their star witness, its pages a roadmap to an assassination. The feds weren't just after justice. They were weighing a rare move, capital punishment, a decision that would need the Attorney General's NOTAS. Mangione sat in a cell. 2 legal battles loomed, each with stakes higher than the last. The journey from Altoona to New York was tense. Mangione initially fought extradition, his lawyers scrambling to keep him in Pennsylvania. But after hushed talks, he waived the fight, and on a cold December day, he rolled into Manhattan under heavy guard. NYPD officers clutching assault rifles, their eyes scanning for trouble. On February 21, 2025, he stood in Manhattan criminal court, his face blank as he pleaded not guilty to the state charges. His attorney, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, fired the first salvo. Some of the evidence, the gun, the notebook, might have been grabbed without a proper warrant. She vowed to fight its use, planting seeds of doubt. Judge Gregory Caro set the next hearing for June 26th, giving prosecutors time to hand over their trove. Videos, police reports, autopsy details, DNA. The wheels of justice turned slowly, but they turned. Across town, the federal case kicked off with equal intensity. Prosecutors unsealed their complaint, leaning hard on the notebook's damning words. They argued it wasn't just a crime. It was a well-planned assassination, a strike at the heart of corporate power. Mangione's next federal hearing was slated for March 19th, just days from now, and the question lingered: would the government push for death? The decision rested with Merrick Garland, a man known for measured choices. For Mangione, the stakes couldn't be higher: life in a cage or a needle in his arm. The public couldn't look away. Outside the courthouse, a movement brewed. They called it Free Luigi, a rallying cry for those who saw Mangione as more than a killer. To them, he was a symbol, a man who'd taken a stand against a healthcare system that chewed up lives and spat out bills. Supporters donned green shirts, their slogans bold: "Healthcare is a human right, Free Luigi." Their voices loud in the cold New York air. Online, the chatter grew, stories of denied claims and lost loved ones fueling their cause. But not everyone cheered. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro took to the airwaves, his tone stern. Violence isn't the answer, no matter how broken the system is. Corporate boardrooms trembled, too, as CEOs beefed up security, wondering who might be next. Mangione's defense wasn't sitting still. Karen Friedman Agnifilo teamed up with Abraham Moskowitz, a death penalty expert, signaling they were ready for the fight of their lives. They hammered at the evidence. Had the Altoona cops overstepped? Was the search legal? They raised bigger questions, too. Could Mangione face both state and federal trials without tripping over double jeopardy? And with the media frenzy, every headline screaming, "CEO Slayer," could he get a fair shot? The defense knew the odds were long, but they'd play every card. As March 14th, 2025, dawns, the case sits at a crossroads. Luigi Mangione, once a bright student, now a man in shackles, waits for his fate. Brian Thompson's family mourns, a widow and 2 kids left with memories and questions. The courts churn, state and federal gears grinding toward verdicts that could ripple for years. And out there, in the streets and on the screens, America watches. Some with anger, some with hope, all wrestling with the same question. Is this justice, or is it something else? The answer's coming one hearing at a time.